Welcome to the latest episode of Surgeons' Lives. I'm your host, John Monson. This is an unusual episode because it's episode number 2, meeting and talking to Professor Ara Darzi, or Lord Darzi as he is known. In the first episode, we heard about his early life and upbringing in Baghdad and medical school in Ireland, and his early career in the UK and in London when he first undertook a piece of work for the government. In this episode, we move from the time that he was invited to join the government of Gordon Brown, becoming a life peer, and then life after peerage and what he has done ever since. It's a fascinating conversation where he pulls no punches about the mistakes and errors made in the NHS over many years, and what the future might be when it comes to modern technologies such as AI. There's no question, whatever you think about the life of somebody who has involved themselves in policy making, Ara is a fascinating and extraordinarily talented individual. What he says is at times quite searching and profound, and I think it's definitely worth listening to. While you're listening, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and send us whatever comments you may have. Without further ado, let's go and listen to episode number 2 of Ara Darzi. I'm John Monson, and this is Surgeons' Lives. So, listen, thank you for joining anyway, the second episode. When we finished the last episode, we just reached the point of you getting a call from Gordon Brown, and to suggest that you become part of the government as one of the goats, as they were called at the time. So, tell me, obviously, when you get a call like that, it's surprising and hard to turn anything down like that. I mean, the leader of the government is asking for help, and it's a difficult challenge to turn down, but it definitively represented a fork in the road for anyone's career, but particularly your career, where you'd managed to balance surgery research and being still a member of the surgery community. But you must have known at that point that you were, at least in some respects, going to step across a line.
Well, listen, the call was a complete and utter surprise. I may have mentioned at the last call, I met him while I was doing quite a big review of London's healthcare. So, my discourse with policy and politics didn't happen upon my appointment.
Sure.
By Gordon Brown. It started well before that. So, actual fact, it was for me, it was one of the most exciting things I've ever done when I was asked by then Patricia Hewitt, who was the Secretary of State for Health, to lead a major review on the state of health in London. And you may know this because you would have been in the UK before. Every 10 years, London had some form of a review of its health. That included reorganizations of the medical schools, if you remember, significant reorganizations of health services. Anyhow, 2006, so I go in, they ask me to do this piece of work, they give me a timeline, and actually, in fact, for me, that was the most interesting. It was the first, but probably the most creative piece of work I've ever done, because instead of looking historically on the number of beds, hospitals, everything else, I decided let's look at pathways of care and how we should improve these pathways from the cradle to the grave, which is what the NHS is all about. It looks after you from the cradle to the grave. So when I was another innovative part of that, and that was something that I thought through quite hard, was I decided to bring in 100 Londoners, including patients, in my review for about a year. So we paid them we employed them for a year to be with us, everything we did, and we tested these ideas with the public. And so the last meeting before launch, and the launch was an interesting one because we knew there's a transition of prime ministers, but we didn't know when that's going to happen. So at this launch, I get a call in the morning to say, he was prime minister in waiting, to be fair. We knew that has happened. Gordon Brown wants to come to this meeting to understand a little bit more about health. I said, fine, as long as he doesn't interrupt the discourse we're having with the public, and I'm absolutely fine with that. So he came and he was sitting in the back. At this stage, I didn't even have a chance to go and greet him and say hello, whatever. Anyway, he was sitting in the back, and I was talking about, if I'm correct, I was talking about the pathway of the stroke pathway of care, which ended up being one of the important ones. And I could see him in the back, in the through the corner of my eye. He was scribbling on this paper, and so he was obviously very engaged in writing down what I was saying. I thought he was writing down what I was saying.
He might have been sketching a picture of you.
Well, he was sketching, actually. I'll come back. It wasn't a picture of me, but he was sketching what I was saying, which is fascinating. This is a funny story. I'll come back to that. So anyhow, I finished, and I thought, in a matter of respect, I went in there and I said, listen, this is my name. And he stood up. He was very charming. He's an exceptionally charming man, actually a very kind person. Anyhow, he said hello and all of that, and he left. And which was great because I didn't want to change the tone of the meeting. That was it. And it would have been about 5 weeks later, I get this phone call to say, he was the chancellor then, by the way. He wasn't he was prime minister and sitting, and he called me in. I went to see him in the Treasury.
Yep.
And extremely charming. He knew a lot about me. He's done his homework. He started to talk about robotics. He started telling me about how we started to talk about Imperial, and I think his father had applied to Imperial or something like that. And anyway, cut the story short, he then threw the bombshell at me, and he said, I'm so impressed in what you're doing, and I really want you to be one of my ministers, and I'm appointing people with expertise.
Yep.
And I looked at him. I just didn't know what to say, to be honest. A complete shock. And there's a way we handle when you're shocked. I just started smiling, and he thought I'm positive, and I said, hold on. And then I had to remind him exactly what he said at the beginning. I said, listen, I'm a clinician. I'm a scientist. I work in the university. I have an amazing research program. Why would I do this? And I didn't say it like because I had any concerns about joining politics. That even crossed my mind. Is, I enjoy what I do. I did this policy piece, and I really enjoyed the piece I did for London. But the idea that I could come in and be in government is not really what I ever planned for, and I don't see anything exciting. I don't think I'll add any more value. I could do it without doing that. And he was very good, actually. He didn't force me. He just said, listen, think about it. He said, I'm off to Iraq to see the troops. I remember that. And he said, when I get back, we'll meet again. And I left. The other thing is that, obviously, confidentiality, I can't talk to anyone about this, which is fine. And I left. And guess what happens? Monday morning, I get another phone call. At this stage, I made up my mind. I'm going to be firm. I'm going to say no. And I did that. And again, he was very kind. He never really took him by. He wasn't angry or anything like that. And he said, let's meet again. And I left. You probably know these guys have meetings 15 minutes, half an hour.
Yep.
And so I left, and I then decided the best thing to do is to write to him. And I wrote to him. I sent it to him on email, actually. It's one of the old email addresses, which I'm not going to CompUSA or something like that. And and the funny thing happened because two peers took me out for both patients of mine, and they then, and I knew then they must have known, and they said, listen, if the Prime Minister asks you to serve, it's Her Majesty. It's Her Majesty's government. You can't just faff around and whatever.
Yep.
I had no idea about protocol in any of this. Anyway, at this stage, I had already written to him a letter and sent it in. So, and then guess what? I get another call. I'll go in, and that was it. At that stage, the cabinet secretary was there as well, Gus O'Donnell, and he sat down and he talked. Very charming. It happened. So I was one of four.
Yeah.
And we were called the Government of All Talents. Actually, in fact, my private secretary came up with the acronym of GOATS. And so I remember telling him in a car one day, oh, guess what? I thought it's a funny joke. I'm the health goat. And he nearly flipped because his big idea of Government of All Talents became GOATS. And so that was it. So, yes, I was very up. It wasn't I was scared or nervous of it, but that's not what I do. But I ended up doing it. And I must say, I enjoyed it.
So that's fine. It's a story that I'm sure is could be repeated. I'm sure by the other three, maybe. As I'm sure in retrospect, he didn't decide to pick you the day he saw you speaking. I'm sure he was.
I don't know.
To just make sure that you were the guy he wanted, etc. But it really doesn't matter. I'm going to push back at you and say, obviously that's not what you were expecting. You were happy doing what you were doing, your research, your clinical work, your departmental leadership, and some policy assistance, etc.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what you think. The world perceives that at that point you've stepped across the line. And that must have been in your mind, at least to consider how you were going to deal with that. Because obviously it wasn't going to be for the rest of your life. It was going to be a finite time frame. And that must have been to some extent, a consideration, almost a sacrifice, if you like, because, suddenly that there's a whole bunch of people who aren't going to like you. Literally from that moment, they're not going to like you.
Yeah, but like you, John, I never wake up in the morning thinking who likes me, who dislikes me, with the greatest respect. I never have and never would. I show a huge amount of respect whoever I'm dealing with. Yes, it did create some, those who would like to have a reason why they wish to criticize me, they will use that. But it went up well above I just completely and utterly ignored it. For me, the most important thing was I do not make a political mistake or a mistake which could have a political impact. That's for me was the number one priority. Not what people think before I start, is what people think by the time I finish. So that was very clear. And to be fair, in Parliament, I remember standing up and saying, listen, I'm a doctor, not a politician. And there was an incident, I don't know whether we talked about this in the first one, where I was taking my first bill through Parliament, which was the human fertilization and embryology.
Yeah, no, you did say that, yeah.
So, that incident, everyone in the House of Lords, when I first arrived, who is this guy, surgeon coming in to be a minister, all of that. And, that incident happened. Everyone said, I'll only speak when the minister is here, just in case.
Just on that point, you raised that point. I mean, here you come as some blow in from left field, one of four. Did you sense resentment from the sort of professionals, if you like, that were there?
Well, I didn't actually. The colleges were very supportive, and because I was doing high quality
I meant the professionals in the House of Lords.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, for them was who are these guys, and you have to understand they're the political elite there will obviously say, well, what's this all about? But there were, the beauty about the House of Lords is the ability to bring people of diverse set of skills, opinions, and expertise to contribute. And that's really what makes the House what it is. Very much different than the House of Commons, which is highly political, all whipped.
Yeah.
And whatever your opinion is, it doesn't matter. If you have a three-line whip, that's what you do, and that's what you do. If you don't, then you will have to resign the whip, and that's a disaster as a politician. So it's a very, very different. But I did 2 years. I got probably the most challenging bill through because I was a clinician scientist. Your human fertilization embryology bill was really full of science, evidence, morality, everything.
And a tremendous number of ticking landmines,
Yeah.
potential landmines. So, I mean, obviously, unless you were amazingly deluded, which you've never been, you recognized from day one that any form of health ministerial role is a bit of a poison chalice. It has been forever and continues to be. And you must have recognized that, as you say, emerge from the other end intact would be a major objective. But did you have any sense of thinking to yourself, is there any chance that what I do will have lasting legacy, or am I just, what is my main role here?
Well, my main role, you have to remember, when I joined, Gordon Brown wanted his own health strategy. And we had just done the NHS plan it was launched in 21 or 22, 2021 or, well, no, 2000 or 2001. And I was involved in that process, and that was Alan Milburn, who was the Secretary of State for Health, and Tony Blair was the Prime Minister. So you can actually go now to 2007 when they launched they asked me to lead on the next stage review, and the next stage review was a phenomenal process because at least I had the reins in deciding how this is going to happen. And I flipped it from historical top-down policy, where most NHS policies was developed, including the NHS plan, by the way, of 2001. I said, let's do this differently. We had 10 strategic health authorities serving 66 million people, whatever it was. And my plan was we will do a local plan in each of the 10 strategic. So there will be 10 plans, believe it or not, 10 plans locally, based again on pathways of care from the cradle to the grave. And what I decided to do at a national level, we do the enabling plan to make these things happen. So it was the first time of taking regard from bottom up, first time of having regard to diversity of the population, the diversity of disease burden, the inequalities that existed in different parts of the country. So it was the first bottom-up review or report ever done. And what we did then, the enabling framework, and that's where high quality care for all came in. And that really landed extremely well. To my surprise, it landed even better than I was aspiring to achieve. I mean, if you go back and read Nick Timmins, who would have been most of the biggest critique of the NHS, and he was the health editor for the Financial Times, it hit the media in a major way. There was an overwhelming approval to all of this. So that was for me, that was the high point. And that would have been, so I started in July of 2007. We launched High Quality Care for All in September 2007. We finished it in September 2008. We launched it around that time. And then I stayed for another 4 or 5 months to get it over. That's the time, I've done the bit, and I wasn't going to run away after the publication of the report because I felt morally responsible to at least see its initial implementation. and how it's not what the NHS will call how do we operationalize a 10-year strategy, and I was involved partly with that, and then I started to think through to leave by 2009. And as you may know, I knew 2010 elections are happening, but I wanted to get out that summer. And it wasn't an easy thing, by the way. I was there for about 3 months, but they wouldn't let me go because a couple of them left, the other goats left, and to be fair, eventually it was done in the most honourable way, where I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister, he writes a letter to me, and the announcement was made, and I was very anxious to get a break for summer, and I managed to get 2 weeks off. So,
okay, so two things. Second thing we'll come on to, which was as you came to the end of your break, what you decided you were going to do with the rest of your life. But going back to the, there you were at the beginning of the century, becoming heavily and more involved in policy and strategy and implementation of high-level stuff. I saw a wonderful quote, which I'm sure is not new, that says, as a surgeon, you make a difference to people that you meet. And as a policymaker or a politician or whatever you want to call a person, you make a difference to millions of people that you don't meet. And that's, of course, the prize, the big potential prize. But better people than you, whoever they may be, I'm sure there are some, and worse people than you have been through reviews, NHS, et cetera, over decades and decades and decades. And down the line, the work they did has been replaced by another review and another review and another review. And I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, only last year, having put your heart and soul into all of that work you did 10 years ago or whatever, 15 years ago, it's the same Lord Darzi that comes up with the not exactly insightful or shocking news that the NHS is broken. In the review that you did. I mean, you weren't exactly telling people something they didn't know already, but what does that do to you when you think, like, I've put 20 years of my life into this and we haven't made any progress in some ways? Those are my words, not yours, of course. But you see what I'm getting at?
yeah. Well, let me correct you on this, because in 2009, when I left, and by the way, by 2010, if you look at all the performance indicators in the National Health Service, we're in an unbelievable place. There's no question. And this goes to the Blair-Brown government. I mean, in the beginning, the funding settlement that was agreed on, obviously mostly funded by national insurance, and that was a transformative 10 years, without a doubt. So when I left in 2009, the health service was, and I say this in a remarkable, nothing to do with me, by the way, it was a 10-year reform and an investment. I think what you're describing now is the report that I did last September, which looked at what happened since 2010 until 2024, if you look at that 14-year period. And again, I didn't want to be political about this, but I managed to get the data. Even as a health minister, I wasn't able to get this, by the way. I had to do that piece of work in 8 weeks because they had some place that they had to present it, or they wanted to launch what they called an NHS audit. Then I changed the word because you know what that means, morbidity, mortality audit. So I looked at NHS investigation. And that even, the acts, obviously you can't do anything in 8 weeks. So the first thing for me was to get the data. And that wasn't easy because it's never been done before. But the idea of me getting data, and I didn't want to look at 2010. I took it back to my time, even back to the millennium. So I had data from 2001 till 2024 on 63 million people. That was it was so big that the Department of Health had to release 40 data sets, which was the largest dump of data of any Whitehall department in history. And we got the analysts to really work on this, and it was phenomenal when it came to some of the outputs I was getting, middle of the night, amazing analytics. And that's when you read it in your face and you see there are 335 slides in that report. As I said, 63 million people over 24 years. You can't argue with that. That, data tells you the truth. And which was shocking for me. And I work in the health service. I knew we were strained, but never expected to be as bad as that. I really didn't. And then I even thought at this stage, listen, I'll just release the slides and let the people decide what's wrong. Then when I was told, no, you can't do that because not many people read slides. Anyhow, to finish the story, I wrote the narrative. Now, that actual fact, if you go back, you're asking me what went wrong. 3 things went wrong, which is in the report. Happy to rehearse them to you, or you can read them. The first big shock to the NHS was actually the global economic crash, the austerities of 2008.
Obviously.
And George Osborne had to cut the budget.
Yeah.
And that had a serious impact. There's no question about that. And I'm sure he knew that as well at the time. And that then second was followed by an amplifying shock. And that was the Lansley's reconfiguration of the services. Essentially, Lansley restructured everything in the National Health Service, placed on, the sad fact about that was it was placed on no evidence or ideology. And the David Nicholson, who I knew very well because he was the CEO when I was the minister, described it. It is so big, you could see it from the moon in terms of change. And so that was the second big shock. I'll tell you why that shock is relevant, because at a time of austerity, the most important thing we do as family, community, state, that we keep an eye on the till.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to go into a spiral.
Yeah.
When you get the managers to reapply for all their jobs all over again, all over the country, the eyes on the till or the finger on the pill just gone. And that really led to a significant deterioration in our finances. And guess what? That's followed by, there was some improvement, and then you hit COVID, which we were completely unprepared. So these 3 shocks has led to what you describe. Everything goes up, comes down, everything is down, goes up. So we hope in the next 10 years we will try to revive this national institution, which is important to everyone who lives in this country.
Well, and I think personally, beyond the country, it remains a beacon of what is possible in terms of society's approach to healthcare, where healthcare is considered a right rather than a commodity. It's all art of compromise and the art of the possible. I remember watching Barack Obama give a State of the Union address. I'm sure you watched it when he did his healthcare State of the Union, and thinking there was literally almost nothing in his address that you could argue with in terms of what the right principles of delivering healthcare for society. Of course, he was then subject to months and months and months of the most dreadful pork barrel politics, such that by the time it reached a desk or the Senate, it bore no relation to what he proposed, and to some extent that's international politics, isn't it? I mean, it's it's chipped away, and Ronald Reagan used to say, just because I don't get everything I want this year, I'll take what I can get, and maybe next year I'll go back for more and do it that way. Do you have to teach yourself that art of compromise in the world you lived?
Yes, because I believe in democracy. And I believe, the man on the street has a vote. And if that's what they decide, that's what they decide. And that's why we're very fortunate to live in democratic countries. That's democracy. I think any shift from that, you end up in a worse and a much more dangerous territory. And we're very lucky to have what we have.
So, I think I know the answer to this. Would you describe yourself as optimistic for the NHS in the next 25 years?
Yes, based on a number of caveats. One is we really need to embrace technology. We really need to reform the system. And reform isn't just a one static change, it's a continual change. I always said quality is a moving target. Why is it a moving target? Because of innovation.
Yeah.
What we did today is out of date tomorrow. What we do tomorrow is out of date the day after. And unless you have these principles as a clinician, as a manager, as a policymaker, as a regulator, you're never going to change. If the regulators don't change and keep up with you, they're going to stifle innovation. If your leadership and management in the NHS, the non-clinical one, really procuring, commissioning, if they don't engage in the latest, they're going to stifle innovation. So at the end of the day, it is not you and me as a surgeon, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. It's actually the whole system needs to be aligned and say quality is the organizing principle of any health system. And how do we get there? We continually iterate, and improve because of innovation and transformation.
So, what's the next big thing then? Do you think is it AI, or what do you think is the next big thing in the next decade?
I think the most transformative enabling technology is going to be AI, because AI is going to transect everything, to be honest. If you look at what are the main pillars when you talk about any health system reform, look at prevention. AI could be transformative in detecting pre-disease states or even preempting disease and intervening at a much, much earlier stage. And there is big venture funds, and I work partly in flagship pioneering in Boston, and some of the work they're doing in that field is absolutely remarkable. The utility of diagnostics. AI could be also transformative. In the area that I'm working on at the moment, which is the Fleming Initiative, because obviously Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin here. We're reaching the centenary in about 3 years' time, 2028. So I'm leading this global campaign. When you look at AI in diagnostics, then you come to realize actually 70% of antibiotics prescribed have a no-diagnostic test. So it's not just displacement, actually, in fact, filling a huge gap. We don't even know whether we're treating a virus or a bacteria. So diagnostics is going to be completely transformative. Recently, we published a paper with Google DeepMind on AI as a co-scientist assistant, which was screening large number of assets for their antimicrobial properties or trying to predict resistance. It's going to be transformative. Therapeutics, same. If you look at both the speed at which new drugs could be discovered, manufactured, is absolutely huge. And then finally, health and healthcare delivery, which is where you are and I am. And AI could also be transformative, just include AI in imaging. The famous paper we did again on AI mammography with Google DeepMind back around the 2020, which was published in Nature. We could do these things in the UK because we managed to get, nearly 100,000 mammograms.
Yeah.
20,000 of them were annotated. We did the algorithm in 4 months, again, with the expertise of DeepMind. And that's going to be transformative in diagnostics, therapeutics, healthcare delivery. And that's going to be, a lot of that is going to be in the next plan, which will be published, I think, within the next 4 weeks or so.
So before I pivot away from the world according to Ara Darzi, when you left government, did you have did you have a strategy or a plan that, well, this is what I'm going to do now? Or did you just decide, I'm going to go back to what I was doing before with the research and the clinical and stuff like that? Because if you left with armed with a huge bonus, namely now you were, internationally known, you more so, and you had the peerage, etc. I mean, those are all advantageous things to be able to leverage what you want to do next, for sure. But what was it that you wanted to do at that point, or have you just fallen into these big projects that you've done? Whether it was Wish or Fleming or whatever it might be. Was there a plan?
Well, my plan from day one was to keep what I have. So I remained an active clinician. I came every Friday, and to be fair, no one could call me on a Friday. So I was operating on Fridays. I actually did more operating for that year than I ever done because I never traveled. Because traveled was very cumbersome. If you go traveling, you have to bring 2 or 3 civil servants with you, and they have to watch everything. If John Monson came to talk to me, who's he? What does he want? And you have to sit beside me, and I'm sure that would have irritated you more than me, but it happened, and so there was no point traveling.
Well, as you say, I think the word you use is right. It's cumbersome.
Yes, and so I operated every Friday. I even operated on Saturdays. It's amazing when you're a minister; they open theatres for you, and I did that. And on Sunday, I did all my paperwork because I had a lot of parliamentary questions, and you have to read through all the paperwork to answer a specific question.
The red boxes.
Yeah, the red boxes. Yeah, the red boxes too. Yeah. So I knew I'm going to come back. I knew I'm going to do more or less the same. And I did. And to be fair, I had first 6 months, I didn't really want to do anything else other than, uh, you know, re-enter fully into the system, seeing a lot of the students, which I used to see every week anyhow, the PhDs and things. And then the rector, we used to call them rector, now they call vice chancellors or presidents, sorry. The chap was Keith Irons, who called me in to say the Imperial was strategically at that stage was building four institutes, and one of them was an Institute of Global Health.
Yes,
and the guy who was running the Institute of Global Health had left, and so he called me in to see whether I will be interested in running an Institute of Global Health. I said, well, I know nothing about global health. And then he kept pushing. Then I changed the name, called it Global Health Innovation, because that's what I do. That's what I enjoy doing. So we ended up creating that. So essentially, that started with the Hamlin Center of Robotics, which existed before. We put that in the institute. We created a new center with the Royal College of Arts, which is the Helix Center, which is a joint center between designers in the Royal College of Arts and clinicians here in Mary's. That's based in Mary's. The third one was Centre for Health Policy. I thought, my experience being a minister, I convinced the Cabinet Secretary to invest in PhD studentships for policymakers. So we created a master's and a PhD program for policy, and we actually did a lot of policy work when I came back, because I started understanding how policy is put together. The only difference is, for me, was a bit like doing your own research. Where's the evidence base if you're going to change policy? So that was exciting. So yes, we grew that institute to something very big and still going, and I'm still the head of the institute for the last how many years? Actually, quite a long time, 14 years, and I've enjoyed that because it's again what I've always enjoyed in life is the convergence of different scientific platforms, the convergence of what I was doing in policy, politics, and the health service. These are the danger zones that when you converge in, and these danger zones also have huge opportunities. And if you don't see these opportunities, then you could actually, in fact, been taken over, and that's why they're called the danger zones. But if you exploit them to the hilt, the returns are huge.
So I used to think I was reasonably smart until I got to know you better.
Oh.
Realized that,
Yeah, but is that a Catholic confession?
well, firstly, I wouldn't know, not being Catholic. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, you should know that. But my point being that I've recognized, as many people have done over the years, that you are exceptionally smart. But here's my question. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I'm just going to ask you, what is your biggest talent? What are you really good at?
Uh, what I'm good at? I don't think I'm good at anything, to be honest. I really don't. I think uh, you have to start believing in the way your mind thinks and try to refine or that pathway, evaluate the risk of it, and and take any opportunity that passes you by and make the best of it. And I don't think I have any unique talent in any way. I never felt that. I never even expressed that, and you know me for
You
uh,
certainly have a remarkable
yeah.
capacity for hard work. Can you tell me what your day looks like, your average day looks like? Yeah, what time do you get up? What do you do? Um,
I usually get up about 6. I try 5 days a week to get on a treadmill for about half an hour. I get ready.
do
I
you
come to work.
succeed?
Huh?
Do you succeed 5 days
Yes.
a week? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I try my best. Sometimes you don't because you have a breakfast meeting at 7:30. You have to go to it. But usually, until if you manage to get in about 8:30 or 8 o'clock, then you can do that. Yeah. And you know, I try. The evenings are slightly different. To be fair, COVID has changed things. But before, I mean, I had these dinners every night, and they are, some of these will be painful to go to, but some of them you have to go because what you do. Uh, some of them you have to go because you learn something, and some of them you go because you need to be seen at some. So, uh, and in between, obviously, the rest of the day is meeting some smart people. Uh, I keep away from irritants if there is such thing. I try and avoid things that I know will not align with me.
Stage of
And
your career, you obviously have people, your people, who assist you in those efforts, keeping you
yeah,
away from irritants or whatever it is. They protect you. Um, do you obviously work long hours.
yeah.
You used to be a 7 day a week guy. Are you still a 7 day a week guy?
It depends how we define work, really. Yes, I do. I do. I do. I do. I mean, listen, work. But yes, I do work 5 days a week. Uh, I do work the weekend. These are mostly my hobby related works. I like exploring things. I'm not talking about exploring a mountain, but
No,
if
I know.
there's something that I've thought about and I really want to study it and understand what it is and go for it or read a book about it or whatever it is, then I'll do that the weekend.
Okay.
I don't feel I'm under pressure. I mean, I've never done anything because I feel under pressure. I have to deliver this, deliver that. But the world we live in, uh, demands a lot from you, and as long as you can cope and stay above it, then that's fine. If you are overwhelmed, and I recognize that, I'll walk away from it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pivot and ask you some questions that are not related to any great strategy or anything like that, but and I don't want any hugely profound answers to these questions, but some truthful answers. So, can you tell me the person you admire most in the living world?
It used to be you when I knew
Ah,
you.
A long time ago, and you said used to be. Yeah.
Listen, there are so many people.
Oh, no, I just want one.
Uh, alive, you mean?
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
well, listen, there are a huge number of people. Aung San Suu Kyi was my hero, and I really did a lot when I went to Burma on many occasions, and I think it's tragic to see where she is at the moment, considering what she managed to do in Burma. And she was great, and I got to know her. She was fantastic, and
So if
she
you're
was
stuck,
there.
if you're stuck in a mountain cabin for a weekend and you have
Yeah.
to invite three guests from anywhere in history, who would they be, those three guests?
Anywhere from history.
Yeah.
I would have liked to meet Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
I would have loved to meet Churchill.
Yes.
Uh, and who else would I've loved to meet? That's a challenging one. Someone live would be different, or I don't want to talk about.
Have somebody alive? Yes. Yeah.
I mean, the meetings I have with people like Paul Nurse is someone who I admired.
Very interesting man.
Fascinating man.
What happens when we die?
No one cares.
There's no afterlife.
I no, I'm not into any of that really.
Okay. All right. Now you have no budgetary restrictions, and you have to fill a 3-car garage. What are those 3 cars? No budgetary restrictions. What are those 3 cars?
Well, I will, looking at the cars behind you, well, obviously the E-Type convertible would have been in one of them.
All right, E-Type.
The 356A will be
the Porsche, one of the early Porsches, yes.
Would be another one.
Yeah.
If I have a dream, I will also have the 1950s gullwing
Mercedes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
One to show off, the other one to enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
I suspect the gullwing is a nightmare to drive.
Yes. Hot. Everyone says hot. We mentioned in the last conversation that you're an enthusiastic cook when you get the time, and et cetera, et cetera. What's your signature dish?
It's not the cooking, by the way. It's the process of cooking that I find very, very relaxing. For me, it's a bit like operating.
Yeah.
And I really mean that. When you operate, you're calm, you relax, you enjoy it. It calms me down in the operating theater. And cooking is as good as that if you're at home. What do I like cooking? I like cooking everything. I mean, obviously.
Have a signature dish?
Yeah, simple stuff. I mean, I started many, many years ago to go into the depth of French cooking and the sauces, the stock and this and that. And I've gone into much more cuisine naturelle, which is healthier. I mean, at the end of the day, what do you realize? It's a bit like a patient. Cooking is as good as the ingredient.
Yes.
Getting it through the operation is as good as your fitness.
I remember when you would very kindly cook in Dublin.
Yeah.
You used to take about a week to prepare for it.
It's little things you have to do. It's the preparation of it, yes, absolutely. But I always found cooking very, very relaxing as operating. So if you're not operating, spend a bit of time, do some cooking over the weekend. That chills you.
What's your ideal weekend?
Have a nice meal, meet the family, do something, go out in a car, drive somewhere.
Go and cry in the Emirates Stadium?
Yes, absolutely. If there's a good game, yes, definitely, yeah, absolutely. They're
Arsenal,
not playing well.
just as
Yeah.
much success this year as Manchester United.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Still, yeah, going in or by the way, Twickenham. As the season is coming up, obviously soon, and after summer. Yeah.
Okay, beer or wine?
Wine,
Mac or PC?
Mac,
Beatles or Stones?
Beatles.
Have you ever asked anyone for an autograph?
No.
Has anyone asked you for your autograph?
Yeah.
Do you sign?
I just don't. I don't like bothering people.
No. Do you sign the autographs?
I very embarrassingly did. Yes. I mean, listen. If it's a kid, yeah. I mean, and then I will do that.
Best book you ever read?
There are so many.
I just want one.
Would have been. It would have been Mandela's book, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
One song to be played at your funeral.
Oh,
You obviously get the assumption that they'll play something appropriate for a funeral, but one song that you would like to have played that
I
means
probably will. It will be Pink Floyd. Which song I can't. I won't be able to decide because I just.
the fact that they all have strange names, even though you know the music, etc. What's the scariest animal to you?
Wolf.
Are you a window or aisle person?
I am an aisle person because I want to get out as soon as I land.
And your I don't think I asked you this before. Your favorite movie?
Ah, uh, the one I remember most would have been Midnight Express. Do you remember that?
I do remember it. Quite a controversial movie at the time,
Very.
and not the cheeriest thing to watch, etc. So, last question: how would you like to be remembered, and how do you think you will be remembered?
I don't. But last question is easy. I don't think I will be remembered. How would I like to be remembered? That's a different story. Well, someone who, did a decent job and as an honourable, and that's it. Really, that's all what I think. What I care about. If they don't, then I don't blame them.
Yeah, exactly. I think I mean the whole purpose of these conversations with people is, and I found that I don't know whether you want to call it age, maturity, experience, whatever it is, but there is something associated with a lot of people, not all, towards the, shall we say, the autumn of their career, where titles and numbers of papers and CVs, etc., are not really important. It's
Absolutely not. It's complete. Let's say it's irrelevant. I mean, absolutely irrelevant.
if you look at what matters in life, and I don't know what time this interview will come out, but in June of this year, 2025, we lost Neil Smart, a surgeon who
Yeah.
was just 50 years of age.
Tragic.
To esophageal cancer, and who did this talk, as you know, because he wanted to tell people not to ignore symptoms as he did. Life is short, and sometimes too short. So, so thank you, Ara. I appreciate it. You're as always unique. Unique on this occasion because I've had to produce 2 episodes of the Ara Darzi story, which I think, but there will be no royalties or residuals going to you. I'm sorry about that. And I appreciate you taking the time. It means a lot to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you.
And
Take
cheers.
care.